highly recommend this thing, this James Franco SNL thing. You feel the stress and the pressure you guys go through just watching this
everyone
thing.
bomb too. It's like you see certain people bomb, and I always want to be like at the table where the week before that was me bombing, and that. I mean, everybody would eat shit at the table, and then when new cast members would come in, I would always tell them like, you are going to eat shit. And you're gonna want to like crawl under your desk, and you know what I mean. Yeah. And no one's gonna look at you. Everyone and no one's paying attention to your show. They're just thinking about their show.
Do you remember your first big bomb, like in a read, like the first one that you just?
Oh, my very first sketch, huge bomb. I remember my first sketch was with Will Forte, and it was a thing called Emmy attire. It made no fucking sense. It was Steve Carell was the host, and then I was a guy in biking gear, and Forte was in the bathroom, and he was like, "What are you wearing to the Emmys?" And I was like, "I think I'm gonna wear biking attire." And he goes, "What do you mean biking attire?" I'm like, my biking attire, my shorts, the fingerless gloves. This is what I'm gonna wear to the Emmys. And he goes, "Go home and change." I go, "Why?" And then he comes out in biking attire, and he goes, "'Cause I'm wearing biking attire to the Emmys." And then it just turned into this thing where then Steve Carell came in Viking attire, and he was dressed like a Viking. And you could tell it was fucking awful. And then, so we did it, and it died. And I remember it ended, and I went, whoa, God, I need to learn about sketch writing. And then I remember Tina Fey was next to me under her breath. She was like, what the fuck was that? Like, just under her breath, like, trying to be polite, but like, that was fucking awful. What the fuck was that thing? And I was like, I got it. Next week, I went into Seth Meyers' office, and I was like, can you teach me how to write a sketch? I don't know what the fuck I'm doing,
What hurt worse, it not getting laughs or Tina saying that?
Oh, both. Yeah. Just being like, no, but you know what it was? It was like, I gotta, like, figure my shit out. I don't know what I'm doing, Because there's writing sketches for, like, my friends back in L.A.
Yeah.
And, like, my little, comedy crew, whatever, like, that little scene or whatever.
Yeah, where you have the
and then there's SNL. It's a totally different sensibility, and you gotta, like... And the people who did well there were the people, like, the Venn diagram of what the show found funny, what I found funny was very small, and you just had to, like, get that overlay bigger. But then there's certain people like Mulaney or Wig or whoever, it was like the same diagram. They just, what they naturally liked.
Yeah, it's built for that show.
Yeah, it's built for it. Yeah, I was not. It took me like 4 years to figure it out.
Would people bail on sketches when you're reading through them? Like, was there ever a time when you're 2 pages into a 5-page sketch and you're like, this fucking stinks, and we just stop it?
Yeah. No, you just keep going. Sometimes a host would be like, what is this? But most of the time, no, you just kind of keep going. If anything, if it was, I never did. I mean, I would always try to just keep it buoyant, just for the room, just like so you're just not uncomfortable. Right. You know what I mean? You would just kind of keep committed to it.
What about sketches that you make it all the way to the dress rehearsal and then they cut you an hour before the show? How does that make you feel as a performer?
You just get used to it.
You do get used to it?
Yeah, you just kind of go, all right. I mean, when it first happened...
But it could be one of those sketches that people talk about for a long time to come, and it seems like some of these sketches are just, well, a lot of them are cut just because of time. You just
cut for time, or also the audience just doesn't like it. I mean, Dana Carvey and I and Largo did a sketch that got cut called The Kasems, where he was Casey Kasem, that was his son JC Kasem. And we were having like a really intense conversation where we're estranged, and I'm breaking into the house at the middle of the night.
That sounds great.
And he's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, Dad, hear me out. And he's like, you must have mistaken our house for a pile of cocaine. Dad, I've been sober for 3 weeks and counting. And it's like this whole thing. And it played well, and we did this thing. And then it killed at the table. We were running it, and the crew was laughing, which is kind of a red flag. I was like, the crew's laughing.
Why is that bad?
I don't know. It just, the crew laughs, it's gonna die. Like, there's this kind of thing where like the crew's laughing, and I remember Wig was in the sketch, and she was like, Bill, the crew's laughing. Like, that's not good. Because and then it did. It was so quiet that Dana and I lost our rhythm because we were so used to getting laughs, so we didn't know when to come in, and we were like, oh no, what happened? It was just like the audience was like, nope.
The crew laughing is kind of like when there's a comedian bombing, and you hear the one person laughing in the back is the comic who's on next. It's like what sometimes the people who see it all the time find funny is not always what the crowd's gonna like.
No, it almost always went that way. And also, if we had a really hot dress rehearsal, the show was never as good. That was a bad omen if we had a hot dress. If the dress went crazy, and Lauren would say that in the meeting before air, he went, so that was a hot dress. Like, oh boy, don't get in your head if you don't get the laughs during the live show you just got there, And that would happen all the time, where you would, in your head, during a sketch on live television, I'd be going, God, this one was so much better at press. Come on, guys. You know what I mean?
You get frustrated.
Well, now they're putting out the sketches that get cut on YouTube,
Which
you
is
can
great.
see. And do you think that's like a good, as a performer? Do you think that's good for them? Being like,
Yeah.
at least someone gets to see it.
At least someone gets to see it, but the other thing is that you don't realize how much you react to the audience laughing or not. Just like anything. It's like a lot of those sketches play to kind of like silence,
Yeah.
I saw one with Will Ferrell where he was the Gabe Kaplan sketch, which you guys should go find, which is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It plays to absolute silence.
Yeah.
And I've always felt like, oh, people should see those, because when I go back and look at Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer, it plays to it's quiet.
Yeah.
It plays super quiet.
I noticed that even I'll go back and watch like old Norm Macdonald Weekend Updates. And he's got these amazing jokes that don't get anything. And you're like, this is one of the best Weekend Update jokes I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. And it gets nothing. Yeah, no, that happens all the time.
Well, I always say there's no such thing as a bad crowd. I mean, it's up to me to get them.
Yeah.